What's going on, guys? It's Jason Eichmiller. I'm here with Jerry Moore, and we have a very, very special, good-looking guest right here, Ryan Smith. Just go over Ryan's background. I mean, you guys know who he is. Ryan, Jerry and I met him back at the Digital BGA conference last year, and Ryan and I will actually be speaking this year together. But he's one of my first students. Ryan kind of took what I had been doing with the chatbots, and he completely pushed the envelope. He wrote some numbers that I thought were hell, I haven't done it, so I thought it was pretty damn good. His claim to fame, about a month and a half ago, he hit me up and was like, Jason, I closed 5 of these in a day, and I was like, what, dude? That's not even possible. And he was like, yeah, I actually did. So he's consistently on the top of Digital BGA's leaderboard, and I wanted him here with us because Ryan can give us a snapshot. Not so much into the leads, but what it takes to close these people over the phone consistently. And he's a killer. So welcome, Ryan. Dude, thanks for coming along, man. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to getting into this.
Sweet, bro. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your background. You've had an interesting one. How did you come to insurance sales over the phone? What's up with it?
Yeah, so I got my start at Northwestern Mutual a couple years ago and sort of wore out my warm market really kind of quickly, and somehow came across Jeff Root's podcast, the Modern Life Insurance Selling Podcast, started listening to that, bought Jeff's book, and got hooked up with Digital BGA through just going through all that information, and that's how I got started. Really got my start with those guys, and they trained me up on how to do this stuff over the phone and kind of helped me get a system in place, and that's how I got started.
That's cool. Tell us about the leads you've been doing, you've experienced in the past, and what's worked for you, what hasn't worked for you, any frustrations you had, anything that was really cool.
Sure. So before I started doing the chatbot leads, I was purchasing leads. I bought them through my agency and through a vendor, and it was profitable. I was making sales and it was working. It was up and down, and there was one particular month where I don't remember the specific issue. I think it was most of those leads were being generated through Facebook, and there was an issue maybe with the ad account or something like that with the vendor that I was buying from. And so the leads just shut down for, I think it was a week, maybe 2 weeks. And that was a time when I really realized I needed to, take some initiative and start to learn how to generate my own leads. I didn't want to be dependent, on somebody else for leads. If something goes wrong or their account gets shut down or whatever, I wanted to be able to have a little bit more control over my leads. And I kept buying leads up through the conference in Vegas last year where we met. Mm-hmm. And when I went to that conference, I was determined to start doing something different, to start making more money ultimately. And I wanted to learn how to generate my own leads, and maybe I'm a big numbers guy. I think if you know your numbers and know what you can do, and you can actually improve the quality of the lead just slightly, then it can make a huge impact on the bottom line if you know your numbers. And so that's kind of my experience. It was working. I was making money, which I think is important. First is you've got to know how to sell, and you've got to have a system in place first. So that's the first thing. Once you have that, then getting a little bit higher quality lead or a little bit higher contact ratio can make a huge difference.
Yeah, totally. Take me back though. So I didn't even know that you had a vendor who got shut down for a little while. That must have been scary as hell. Kind of what went through your mind, and when during that week, and knowing okay, well, geez, I think they're gonna come back on, but I'm not sure. Where am I gonna get my leads from? Where take me down that rabbit hole, man. How was that?
So really, that happened in February, and I had just gotten started doing telesales in December the year before. So I'd only been up and running for 2.5 months at that point. And it wasn't a long break. I think it was maybe a week or a week and a half, but the leads just pretty much shut down. And yeah, it was scary. I was really wanting to gear up because I was actually getting married in March, and I had already planned my honeymoon and knew I was going to be taking a little time off. So I was wanting to really turn my leads up and work more. And instead, for that week and a half, I didn't have as many folks to call and was just kind of blowing people up who I'd already been calling on for a while. So it was. I knew then, like, I've got to have more sources for leads. Like, I've got to figure out another solution besides just buying leads. There's got to be another way to do this.
Yeah, dude, that makes perfect sense. What made you, Brian, like, what made you want to, like, give chatbots a try? Like, you were getting leads. So after that hiccup, you're getting leads consistently. Was it a problem with the leads that you had, or was it, like, the opportunity that you saw in chatbots, or, like, kind of both?
So for me, the leads were still working. Like, it was profitable, and I was making money buying leads. The challenge for me personally was I don't have any fear about calling people. Like, I will blow people up, and I was blowing those folks up, but my contact rate was still not where I wanted it to be, and I was definitely chasing people a lot. And so, I was calling people 10, 12 times before shutting their file. And I really wanted a way to get people on the phone. I did not want to sit and listen to the dialer all day and talk to, a couple of people here and there. I really wanted to be able to, get people on the phone, get my contact rate up. To me, that's what attracted me to the chatbot, the idea of kind of the same concept as a live transfer lead. Like, if the chatbot is having a conversation with somebody, then that person is live right there. They know that I'm going to call. They just gave me their number, and I can jump right on it right away and call them. I really thought that, if I was able to stay on top of it, my contact rate would go way up, which is what happened.
Yeah. Do you like have any sort of like base idea on what your first call contact rate was before and what your contact rate is now?
I haven't looked at the specific number lately, but I have looked at it before, and I want to say that my old contact rate was about 35%, but that 35% also included people who would, like, respond to a text. The way my system is set up, it will auto text folks. So sometimes people will respond to that text and say, not interested, or don't call me, or whatever. And so that would actually count as a contact. So even though my contact rate was around 35%, I was not having a phone call with 35% of those folks. I know that my contact rate went a little bit over 60%. I haven't checked it in a while, but that was a couple of months ago. It was above 60%. And I would say that 60% is a lot closer to the actual number of conversations that I'm having, because more people answer the phone. It's just, occasionally people won't answer and will send that, like, not interested text back, but much fewer folks do that because they know who I am. They know that I'm calling. They have my phone number. So I don't get as many of those not interested texts back as I used to.
That's cool.
So when you're going through, like, talking to them, do you feel like when you're talking to them on the phone, do they feel like, oh, this was Ryan talking to me on the message, or do you think they realize that it was a chatbot?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think a lot of them think that they're probably actually talking to me, and then some of them might realize, like, I mean, if it was me, I would know that I wasn't talking to a person, because I know nobody's responding to, like, to my messages that quickly with that much information. But I do think I'm sure some of them think they're actually having a conversation with me. I mean, and ultimately, eventually I'll tell people, like, hey, that was an autoresponder, that sent that back to you, but I'm still here. Like, I'm still a human being watching, ready to call you. So, and I am the same person that, essentially I'm the same person that you spoke with there on the chat bot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. What I like about it, and I'll give you an example from yesterday. I got lead from a lady down in Georgia, I guess up in Georgia. Now I'm in Florida. It's wild. Anyway, so she sees at the very end of the sequence, you know how she sees, like for you, it's a picture of you and Lens, or for like me, it's a picture of me and my daughter, Alyssa. She wrote in after she gave the phone number, then she saw the daughter of Alyssa. She wrote beautiful. And I was like,
Yep.
dude, that's it. Like,
That's it.
she's gonna know who I am. You're the guy with the family who wants to help me, and I kind of like need that help. So when I got through getting through the call, like I'm like, hey, why do you need this? She's like, oh my God, I don't have insurance. My husband died. My daughter wouldn't be able to take care of it. And you're just like, wow, okay, cool. I don't know if you qualify, but I'll do my best to help. And she's like, they're locked in step, and that's what I need. I hate chasing, bro. Can't do it.
Yeah.
Don't want to do it. Crazy.
That picture is super valuable. I mean, that is the value. And also for me, I'm definitely calling people more than once or twice if they don't answer. So if somebody picks up the fifth time that I've called them, and, maybe that lead came in last week, and I tell them, hey, I chatted with you last week about the final expense planning. Sometimes I'll say, oh, I don't remember that. And I'll say, yeah, remember I sent you a picture of me and my wife. They always remember my wife. They remember the other person from the picture. And so to be able to drop that on them, like, hey, yeah, I sent you a picture. That's what I think people remember more than the conversation is, this was a person, sent me a picture, of him and his family, and that sticks in their mind.
Yeah,
I feel like
dude,
that
it's
could
like,
definitely help. Yeah, like help you separate from, obviously there's tons of ads on the market, and who knows who this guy on the other side of the phone is. But I think being able to allow that personal connection with the person like that, just like you said, a week later you call them and they're like, oh yeah, that guy. He is a real guy, not just one of the another million telemarketers that are blowing up my phone right now.
Yep.
yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I think it's like going a little like very lightly into psychology. Like if you think about these people, they don't have any money. They're all on fixed income. They're like they don't have money to spend like $60, $100 or whatever it is on an insurance policy, but they care to get them to buy. They have to care so much. So if you look at a scale, their love for their family and their care has to be up here, and the little bit of money that they're spending, which is actually a big deal for them, has to be down there. So you really have to tip the scale. And so if you can be, so their number one emotion is going to be, well, number one, it's fear. Number two, it's love and care. So if you show a picture of your family, I mean, you are so congruent. You're showing that, hey, I care about these people so much, and that's the same emotion. So back and forth, they're going to buy from somebody like that, and they're going to want somebody like that to help them most of the time. Then you got the crazy ones, but
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me about like how. So I already teased that you had a day where you closed like 5 in a day, but like besides that, which is pretty crazy. How are you doing as far as like calls, closings? Like what's the average day looking like? If you can share some of that info with us.
I mean, typically I start making calls around somewhere between 9 and 10. And usually I'm calling pretty consistently until 5 or 6. I mean, it depends. Some days I work longer hours. Some days I work shorter hours. And some days I take a break in the middle and go for a run or, do something just to kind of break the calls up. I mean, I think that's one thing that I think is so critical with all of this. I really believe your leads are super important, and your mindset is also incredibly important in knowing like what's best for you and how you can be at your best on these calls. If I have a string of rough calls and like I'm feeling it, sometimes I'm going to take a step away for, just a minute. I might go for a run or do whatever I need to do to sort of hit the reset button and refresh my mindset. So I'll do that a lot of the time, midday sometime, take a break and then get back to it. But usually my calls are between the hours of 9 and 6:30. I very rarely do I work past 6:30. So that's pretty typical. And I mean, I've got a dialer. I've got a great system that Digital BGA has set up, and a great CRM dialer, all that good stuff. So I make probably, I don't know, 100 plus calls a day, which I really don't know if that's a lot or if that's not that many, because I don't have a whole lot to compare to, but that's pretty typical for me. And my goal is to have somewhere between 2, 3, 4 deals a day, and it doesn't always happen. And some days I'll have 5, and some days I'll have 0. But my goal is definitely to get 2 to 3 apps in a day.
Gotcha. How do you, if we dive kind of deeper into the sales aspect of this, Rye, like a lot of people's struggle is when they get somebody to the end of the call, they're, oh, I want to think about it. Oh, I got to talk to my family. I got to look at this. How do you overcome that sort of procrastination? Because we know statistically they're not, a very small amount are going to buy once they give you that, I want to think about it, like mumbo jumbo.
I mean, I don't know that I'm an expert in overcoming that objection, but I definitely address it. When I first started, if somebody said something like that, I would just say, oh, okay, when should I follow up with you, or when can we talk again, and I'll just kind of let it go. Now I try to figure out what's going on. Okay, Mrs. So-and-so, what is it that you need to think about? Because this particular type of insurance is the most easily procrastinated insurance and anything that we're going to buy. It's very easy to put it off. You don't have any coverage in place right now. So, and you've thought about this before and you didn't move forward. So let's just, let's just talk about it. Like, is it the price? Because if that's the case, we can reduce the coverage amount a little bit to get something that's more comfortable, or, what's the reason? If they don't give me a reason and they don't move forward, I'm not calling them back. Like, I'm not wasting my time chasing somebody that is not serious, and at that point, if you've built enough rapport, they should let you know what's going on. Sometimes they do need to talk to their spouse, which I understand. Like, if they have a spouse and they work on a budget, then that's fine. And if they say, well, listen, I'm on a really tight income and I haven't done a budget, probably I should sit there and like literally go through their budget with them, but I don't. I'll say, well, what time can I call you, tomorrow? Like, what time are we going to go through this? And then that's it. But I don't know that I'm an expert in it, but just the biggest thing that I took away from Vegas last year, listening to some of the heavy hitters there, was you can't just let it go. Like, you've got to address it. I need to think about it as not a valid, it's not a valid or a real objection. The reality is no trust, no money, no rapport. Those are the reasons. So figure out which one it is and address it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's freaking huge. Anytime you can like circle back and get, say, 3 out of 10 of those dudes. Question, as far as like your I don't know if you know this off the top of your head. I don't know it off the top of my head, but what's the percentage of your one call closes versus like your follow-up closes?
I would, and this is a complete guess. I really don't know. I would guess probably 70% are one call closes and maybe 30% are follow-ups. Maybe 60 to 70. It's hard to say, but
that's cool.
Most of them are one call closes.
Gotcha. So if you go back to like the rookie agent who's just starting this for the first time, or somebody who hasn't ever done chatbots before, like, what sort of advice would you give them? Like, you got the client, you got the prospect on the phone, they've got the rapport, they need it. They went through this whole sequence and finally put their phone number in and saw all this stuff. What would you like? How are they going to sell? How are they going to close it?
I mean, the biggest thing first is like ask for the close or assume the close. Either way, totally. Like you've got to have the mindset that you're going to do this and that they should do it. And that should come across in the way that you're speaking with them. Like, you're an expert. This is the best possible thing for them to do. Let's get this done and check this box and go ahead and get that peace of mind in place for you. I had a lady, I think it was Monday of this week, that I spoke with, and we went through everything, went through the whole process. She definitely needed it. And she said that she wanted to think about it. And so she said that, and I basically just, when she said she wanted to think about it, I kept talking. I said, okay, well, you need to think about it. I understand. Just to let you know, if you do decide to get an application in, here's what the process is going to look like. You know, we're going to go through some health questions together. I'm going to go through some basic information with you. We're going to call the company up. They're going to complete a phone interview, and 30 minutes later, we're going to know for sure whether or not you qualify for this policy. And then I said, can I go ahead and go through these health questions with you? She said, yeah, sure. Okay. So then I went through the health questions with her, and then I just kept going, and she said, all right, let's do it. And, you know, I think just from me giving more information and sort of letting her in as a lead, these leads keep coming in right now for me. So I just got another one here. Let me get it off my phone.
Awesome.
You know, just me continuing to get information to her and let her know the process, put her mind at ease. This is straightforward. You know, we're going to be done with this in just a few minutes. And she was ready to move forward. And she was, as you know, like, they're always super happy once they do it. Like, very rarely do I have somebody, and this is one reason why I feel comfortable leaning on people a little bit when it comes time to apply, is I never have anybody apply and get approved and they're like, oh, you know, I shouldn't have done that. Like, they're always happy. Once they get approved, they get it done. Like, they know they've been putting it off. They're always happy when they get it done. So I think just being assertive, asking for it, being confident, like, let them know, you know, you're the expert, you know that this is the best possible thing for them, you know, and you have their best interest at heart.
Dude, that's awesome. The weight's off their shoulders, right? It lifts.
Yeah.
No, there's no buyer's remorse here. There's no buyer's remorse, which is very rare for this sort of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Ryan, like, are you using as of right now, you're just using your self-generated chatbot leads, correct?
Yeah, so I have a website and I get a few SEO organic leads through the website, but not many. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's probably 98 to 99% chatbot and maybe 1 to 2% organic leads. So yeah, I'm not buying leads. I don't generate any like lead ad Facebook leads or anything like that. It's almost all chatbot leads.
Yeah, and I know you've been using it for 6-8-ish months now. Could you walk through kind of, and I don't know if you're like willing to share this with us, but like your sales figures and stuff like that over your experience using the chatbot?
Yeah, so I don't have like the specific numbers handy right now. I will have them ready by Vegas for sure. So I will have all of my specific numbers ready to go, like month by month, and I'll be able to compare what I was doing before I started to use the chatbot compared to what I did after. I will tell, like, the way that I think about my business and think about the numbers, I think in terms of annual commission. I try not to get too caught up on cash flow because right now I don't have to, which is great. There was a time when I was a lot more concerned about cash flow. Now I'm more concerned with what does this look like on an annual basis for me. So when I make a sale, I think about my annual commission and, you know, I subtract out my lead spend and then I assume a chargeback rate of 20 to 30%. Hopefully it's not going to be, you know, that, but I like to factor that into my numbers so that I can get an accurate picture of what I'm doing, you know, for the year. And I can sort of look at that week to week. My goal is to net about 5,000 to 6,000 per week. And sometimes it's lower than that. Sometimes it's higher than that. December was not my best month, probably not most people's best month. So, and I'm just now, you know, really getting started hitting it again and getting back on those numbers now again in January. But, you know, I know that my closing rate, I don't think it actually doubled once I started using the chatbot, but it went up probably 30 to 35%, which makes an absolutely huge difference when it comes to the bottom line. If you know how to, work the numbers, like if I know I can spend this much, I'm going to get this many leads, I'm going to close at around this percentage, I do around this much annual commission per sale, then I can, know how to play with those numbers so that I can be as profitable as possible.
Yeah, and just like, do you have one good month you have just to give people an example of what is possible of just like a simple number, like November I did X amount of AP in November. Do you have any like basic numbers like that just to give people a basic grasp on the concept?
So Digital BGA showed, I think it was October, my AP was like 28,000 something. And it was a great month. And some of that may have spilled over and I was paid out a little bit from what I did in September and October, but that was definitely a big month, to do around 28,000 AP.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome. And I think like
Pretty
people,
okay.
when they start off, like one of the big things they're worried about, right, is like tech and time. They're like, oh, I don't want to spend the time to do this marketing and advertising and Facebook stuff. I just want to buy leads and I don't want to have to worry about that stuff because it's going to take so much time. But for me, I'm like a big systems guy, and it sounds like you're kind of in the same boat too, where if you can systemize the process and make it work for you, then it's obviously very efficient and it obviously is working for you. So for people who feel like that, like can you talk about like time commitments and stuff like that and stressors that you feel like taking that on? Is it more of a problem, or obviously it's for you kind of cracked the solution to it?
So I would say just kind of sharing my experience when I first started this with Jason back in June, I think it was when we first got started, there was definitely a month of learning curve when I think ManyChat wasn't really cooperating with me and my Facebook account was giving me issues, and I had to work through that, and I was frustrated at first and almost ready to throw the towel in, and I'm very glad that I didn't and that I got through it. So there was a learning curve at first, but my thinking is there's two different ways to look at it. One is forget about quality of lead, forget about, all of that. Just put your head down, get as good as you can at sales and get a system in place and just work it. And, I think that's great. And that works for a lot of people. My thinking was, if I know my numbers, so if I'm buying leads and I'm closing 4% of those leads that I'm buying, and I know that my contact rate is, 40%. If by using chatbot leads, I can get my contact rate to 60%, well, what is that going to do? Even if it's just the same, I close the same amount of people that I'm talking to, my closing rate just went up quite a bit. And then I can run those numbers and know, what is that going to look like? So I think if you can do that work on the front end, which I know with the chatbot you can, I do not spend a lot of time working on my chatbot. I don't. It's not a whole lot of upkeep for me. I let it keep rolling. I work on things here and there. Just recently, I started working on some stuff again with the flow and with some testing out some different ad copy. But it's not a whole lot of upkeep. Most of the work is on the front end, just getting over the learning curve. And once you get over the learning curve, if you already know how to sell and you already have a system in place, it's well worth the effort required on the front end. It's not like something where you have to keep reinventing the wheel, all the time for, months on end. You may have to tweak it a little bit, but it's not a ton of work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Set it. You can't set it and forget it, but you can set it and you can kind of coast on it a little bit, because you're a sales guy. You don't want to be. You're not a codologist, which is important. All right. So I know, dude. I know you got some leads blowing up your phone, and you got to get back to hustling and kicking some ass. But last question for you, bro, if you don't mind, is what's What's 2020 going to look like for Ryan Smith besides hanging out and doing some cocktails in San Diego in late April? What are you up to? What are your goals for 2020?
Yeah, I mean, just keep expanding on what I'm doing right now. I am a big believer as a sales guy. Like I need to get better at closing. Like I've got plenty of stuff to work on in terms of my sales process, overcoming objections. There's still plenty of work to be done. I know I can get my closing percentage up. So working on that, getting that number up, and just building on what I'm doing. I'm still right now focused 100% on personal production. So, I don't have any agents working under me right now. Like I'm totally focused on my own personal production. Down the road, I'm going to definitely be expanding and doing some different things. But for right now, it's just completely optimizing what I'm doing with my own personal production and just building. 2019 was a good year, and 2020 is going to be better.
Dude, 2020, you're gonna slay it, bro. You're absolutely gonna slay it. I love it. We started halfway through the year, man. You got the whole yeah,
Exactly.
you got the whole year. So, dude, Ryan, I appreciate you so much for being on here and for having the trust and the faith in me. And it's really cool to like look over the past like I don't know how many months, 8, 9 months or whatever, and know that like number one, like made a good friend. You're a solid dude. You're a great guy. And number two, that this is working for you and it's working for your business and making probably translates down kind of down the funnel to your life too. So dude, that's totally awesome.
100%. I can vouch for these guys too, man. Jason, I signed up when his program was very new. They've definitely been optimizing and, doing some awesome new stuff. When I first signed up with Jason, he never left me hanging. Like when I was going through some of the challenges that I had with just with some of the tech stuff and trying to figure some things out, Jason was there answering questions, helping me out. He never left me hanging. And that was super important to me to know that, hey, if I'm paying money for something and for a course, like, and I need help, like I'm going to get the help that I need. And he was there. And I definitely appreciate that. I'm super glad that I signed up and that it has been going the way that it has. So it's been good.
Banger, baby. Banger. Always, man. Always got you, dude. All right. Well, hey, we'll let you go to get back to closing deals. Keep me posted. Keep Jerry posted on how everything's going. And yeah, man, we thank you so much, bro. Really, really appreciate you,
Yeah,
Ryan.
thanks, Ryan. Appreciate your time, man.
Yeah. Awesome, guys. Talk to y'all later.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Cool.